Hi, beautiful souls. It's Tan back here again today with you on this Astrology, Human Design, and Gene Keys channel. And today I'm here with the team of amazing and wonderful astrologers who are cooperating and collaborating with me at Tan Astrology. And we're here today to talk about the sun in the 12th house as a part of our 12th house series. So I think that the people watching have kind of gotten attuned to what the 12th house represents in astrology. But as for the sun, there's various different interpretations of that. And, to me, I would say that the sun, first of all, would represent a paternal or father figure in your life. In any way that you want to interpret that. It's the person that builds up your sense of self-confidence and sort of maybe act a little bit like a person who motivated you on your career and life path. And so then the sun becomes someone's sort of creative expression. Sometimes it's their career and also their sense of self-confidence and also kind of their ego, which can be healthy because the ego is necessary to navigate this material world. But of course, we don't want to have too much of the ego and can kind of not be so great. So that's how I would look at the sun in astrology. Do you guys have anything that you want to add to that?
So, what I would add is that the sun being the center of the solar system does have a lot to do with this kind of central radiance that comes from within, this kind of feeling of like being inspirited by aliveness. And there's like, all life on earth depends upon sunlight to grow and develop and become a person. So there is this quality to the sun which is linked to development and spirit and expression of just self and radiance, I would say.
Beautiful. Yeah, the radiance, definitely.
Yeah, so another way to like externalize the sun is to say that it is the ideal to which we strive. So even if you're not linking that archetype with kind of like a father figure or a paternal figure, it could be, as you were saying, Tan, like that which motivates you. So the ideal to which you strive.
Yeah. And then being in the 12th house. So what do you guys think about this placement? I'll let you guys start. Having the sun coming into this house of the unknown, and the house of spiritual things and darkness and Neptune, and this kind of energy.
Well, when I was learning astrology, one thing that I really like to learn about this placement is about bringing light to darkness. It's a very peculiar thing to have, something as bright as the sun illuminating the most dark place, the unconscious, the things that we don't see. And for me, I see this placement as something really dual, because you can have heroes here, people that give themselves to others, because this is the house of giving yourself to others, but also, they're accessing things that most people can't. So they can be great manipulators. So yeah, those are the first things that I think about when I see sun in the 12th.
Kind of on that line of the father. So, of course, this is also the house of imprisonment, hospitalization, and retreats and places of seclusion. So, I often kind of like one of my first questions is what is the relationship with the father? Or does the father work in those realms of where people are secluded?
Mm. Yeah, maybe I can give you guys some example because I have my son in the 12th house. My father was a diplomat, and later on he kind of became the consul general. So he was in we can say like the height of his career at some point, and he traveled a lot. So maybe that's one of the things that is linked to that, because the 12th house does rule foreign lands if we look at it from that perspective. So I wouldn't necessarily say that it would just be like that confinement there, but it does, there's something there about my father traveling a lot and having to go abroad for work, and me having to move with him to wherever he's working. And sometimes it's kind of he going off alone to certain places for work where I wouldn't be able to go with him. And so there's like that distance there. But yeah, I think that there's also something about this placement where not just physical, but the emotional and the mental distance also exists. But this is the funny thing. It's like my father was somebody who was very like not emotional. Like our whole family is filled with women, and we're just emotional women. And he's always the one that's like wants to avoid, kind of anything that was emotional at all. So we could never connect with him in that sense. He's not the type of father that's going to be like, if you're crying, he's going to hug you, he's going to hold you. He was not like that. And he never, shared any of his emotions and whatever he was feeling. He would share it to my mom, but not to me or my sister. So he was like, but that's the thing. It's like, because the 12th house is so spiritual, one of the things that I felt is close between me and my dad is the spirit. Like I felt emotionally distant, mentally, physically distant, but in spirit and in like the karma of things, I felt like there's a closer connection there. That kind of made sense.
Well, thanks
That's
for
beautiful.
sharing.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
I'm getting a little emotional. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because the 12th house is this liminal place between night and day, where the sun is just like at that breaching the surface of the horizon, I feel like sorry, there's a liminality there that means that it's like the presence is felt in whatever kind of condition, kind of like the sun in the 12th house is like felt on a very deep soulful level. It's not necessarily it's not necessarily like physically obvious the way that the connection is developed, because it's like in the liminal space. So it's like you are anchored to the father figure that you've experienced in the 12th house. So it's just like a very profound connection for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you felt like it was a hard to read person? Because I find that people with these placements, they're a bit hard to read. It's like they have well, I don't know how to explain it. They're just not as obvious or as open as other people.
Do you mean is that a question for me about my dad, or you talk about
and if you felt like that had an impact on you, and being someone that is more private?
Yeah, I definitely think he was. I walked on eggshells around him a lot. We'll just say that, because the 12th house does rule addictions, and my dad drinks a lot, but he wasn't necessarily like an alcoholic, I would say, but he did drink a lot to the point of damaging his own health. Like because he would drink, and then he had liver problems, so he knows that he has liver problems, and he still drank. Then he was like recovering from it and getting better, but then he still drank. And so it's like this, it is in some ways, like you can say it's addiction, but yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but like every time he's when he's drunk, he would be that person that's like, I have to walk on eggshells around him. I'm not sure how he's going to react. In a way, you're right, it is hard to read in terms of his aura and the unpredictability there. So yeah.
One of the ways that I see the 12th house is this kind of like attic space. Like sometimes I associate the houses to actual rooms in the houses. in a house. And like the 12th house being the attic maybe is like a nice image where it's like this room that's always filled with darkness and like very dusty old things everywhere. And like if you go in there with just like a massive flashlight and just like just highlight all the harsh shadows of things, everything's just really stark and contrasted and not clear. There's this lack of definition, it's a bit confusing, and your imagination can run wild with that. So I feel like when the sun is in the sun in the 12th house is quite uncomfortable because it's like this place that's not meant to be illuminated. It's meant to be in the dark, left like put away. It's like sleep time. It's not like a place where the light needs to be really. So I feel like it can be quite disturbing as well to have like a light shone upon like all of those secret areas of you, where it's almost like you're constantly having to observe and look at the things that are in this like subconscious attic space. And it's like there's no rest. You don't get to rest because you don't get to just like let the dust settle and just like turn the lights off. Like the light's always on, which can be interesting.
Yeah, and when you talk about sleep, the 12th house and dreams and things like that, I think Sun and 12th house people have a lot of dreams, very vivid, because that flashlight that you said, it's just bright and lighting up the subconscious. And so sleeping well and having a deep sleep is probably not common as well.
Yeah, but they're gifted. Like we're the tendency here is to, talk about darkness, but people with this placement are very gifted. They're talented, they're mesmerizing, they elude people somehow. And they can be healers with this placement because, again, shining light where there's none of it. So it can be tricky for the people that have this placement, but they can be really helpful to others.
Yes, absolutely. I love that you brought that back to the skills and talents that comes with that, because it's like going where angels dare to tread, like you're capable of venturing into like the unknown and not be afraid of what you're going to find there, because you're pretty much like bathing in it from birth, so it doesn't matter. So it's like, I'll go first, I'll hold the light and you can follow me, guys. I always think of Frida Kahlo with the 12th house sun, because she has the sun in the 12th house, and she spent most of her life in bed because she was recovering from like a devastating accident most of her adult life, and which is when she took up her painting from her bed. So she got her father actually to her father gave her paintbrushes and paint and everything and set it all up so that she could paint in bed. And yeah, that's like such a beautiful manifestation of what you can do in the 12th house from your bed or like from your deepest subconscious. Like, you're there, you've got all this material to work with. It's like a treasure trove of inspiration. You might as well turn it into something that no one else has ever done.
Yeah.
Wow, beautiful. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing here is sometimes when you have the sun in the 12th house, I think that other people can kind of see you as having some gifts or some kind of talent. But I don't think the sun 12th house people ever feel like that. And it's such a tricky placement because the ego is put in a house where the ego is never fed in a healthy way, and it still will not get fed in a healthy way throughout the rest of your life. That's just not going to happen, because you're here to learn what it is like to be truly sort of selfless. You can be like Frida Kahlo, you can be like having all this recognition for all the art that you create, but then you come back to your home and then you're kind of like, I'm still not feeling that like boost in the ego. Like, what's going on? I'm still not feeling that ego boost. Like, where is it? Like a Leo would be like, oh yeah, I'm like the superstar. But like, you don't get that with sun in 12th house. You just come back to your dark zone and you're kind of like, I don't feel it. You really don't physically get that feeling in the body. And I think there's a lesson there for the sun being here, which is to kind of let go of that and to be like, hey, it's okay, to let go of that it's not like confidence is really built. Like, how can you really find your confidence when the ego is not boosted, when you're not getting that obvious ego boost? you still have to feel as confident as you can feel.
Yeah.
Another way I think about the sun too is that the planets reflect the light of the sun. So it seems that, having sun in the 12th house would be kind of impacting probably all the planets. And so this kind of also kind of correlates with it feeling uncomfortable for the native to, experience it through their lens of, maybe my life path isn't clear to me, or maybe my relationship with a paternal figure isn't clear to me. And that's going to impact all the rest of the planets, your sun placement.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I think about like the sun as well as the fuel, like just coming back to what you were saying, is it feeding all of the planets? It's like the central fuel system for like life to exist. So you're being fueled from the 12th house. So like whatever is in the 12th house, whatever sign, planets, whatever conditions there are there, whatever, situation that you're in, that is your fuel, and everything is coming from that place.
Yeah. I was reading this article, I think a few days ago. It was about Sun in 12th house. And this, I can't remember the article, the name of it, but this person wrote that the Sun in 12th house people actually brighten up or puts a shine in a particular community or in a room. And when they're not there, it can be felt that their shine, their light is missing. Although the Sun in 12th house person doesn't realize this and there's not that like self-consciousness there. And I think about like, how the sun in the 12th house happens early morning. And you would think about the imagery of that. Like when the sun is in the first house, right? When it can be in the first house, and it's when it's in the first house, it's just, right on the horizon. And that's when the sun itself, if you think about the picture, that's when the sun itself is very, very easily seen, but everything else around it is still dark. So when you think of Sun first house people, they are the center of attention. They are seen when they are there. But then the sun goes a little bit higher. And, we have like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, depending on where you are, right? And then things around the sun begins to get illuminated. You begin to get to see the environment around you. And that's like Sun in the 12th house. It's actually that house where the sun finally puts a light on something, the environment around it. But because of that transition from darkness to light, the sun itself doesn't have that awareness or doesn't have the consciousness of what it's actually doing yet. It's still very like tumbling around, figuring it all out, kind of like that.
I like how Antonia's light goes out right where
That's crazy. Oh my God.
It's interesting. I like this like imagery of what light could like present as, because when we were digging into the gene keys, I don't know which one it is, but there's this idea of fluorescence. And I really like that for Sun in the 12th house too, like emanating light from within that's very magnetizing and draws people in. It's, alluring.
Gene key 15, that's the one.
Okay, nice.
Wow. Yeah.
I just wanted to add to what you were saying, Tan, as well, about the time of day when the sun is in the 12th house. Yeah, it's first of all, that's just a really fun way to discover the houses, is to go out for a walk when the sun is in that house and just see how you experience it. And sort of depending on where you live, when the sun is in the 12th house, what I noticed is that the contrast is much starker on everything, because when the sun from just like going out and experiencing this, what I notice is that when the sun is in the 7th house, it's like suddenly the sky and the day is up, like kind of the light is shared and distributed and diffused throughout the entire landscape, and suddenly it's day, but the orb of the sun is still kind of like not seen, because often you have like buildings that are hiding it, or trees or hills or whatever, depending on the landscape. And so I feel like when the sun is in the 7th house, it has much more like overall impact, like it like impacts the overall scenery in general, and it's like very much like pervasive and prevailing over the land. Whereas when the sun then emerges up above the buildings and the trees, it's like suddenly the orb is there and it's very blinding and quite threatening. It feels quite threatening, almost like something that's overshadowing you and casting a very stark shadow onto the ground. And then, well, I live near forest, so I was like in a forest, and it was just like the sun piercing through the trees was creating all of these shadows of the trees that were like crisscrossing, and it just made the navigation in the forest very difficult. I didn't know what was real and what wasn't real. I didn't know what was a tree and what wasn't a tree. So my light's gone out again, but yeah.
What
I just feel like
happened there?
it's very hard to know, yeah, what's real and what's not real.
Just
The
like your
same
light,
kind
it's
of-
very hard to know what's real and what's real with it.
The same kind of effect is created if you're in like a forest area that's foggy in the morning too, and it like disperses the light, but in this kind of mystical kind of way too.
Yeah,
Love that
that's like sign the
perspective.
12th house, the house of the mist and house of Neptune. It's like shining through that fog.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful though. I remember it was on the road trip. Then I woke up really early just to see the sunrise when it was misty, and it was just so soft and gentle and magical in its own way.
I think some of us had examples that maybe Adriana, you wanted to mention a few, or just name them or talk about one.
Yeah, I brought up some charts. All right. So first of all, I brought Selena's chart, Selena Gomez chart. And yeah, she is a sun in Cancer. By the way, 29 degrees, I think. You know, she's been through some stuff. But yeah, I brought her chart because I like how she is not afraid. I mean, first of all, she's a sun in Cancer, so she's not afraid to be vulnerable and be vulnerable about things that are very personal. When she shared about her journey with the kidney transfusion, I never knew what it took to make that kind of operation. And she was very, very open about it, how difficult that was for both, you know, the person and the donor. Like they become, for several months, they need to be dependent on other people, and it's kind of very, very difficult process. And she wasn't scared of just sharing that with the public. And I found that to be very inspiring. Although we can also, you know, notice that her identity and how she deals with fame is also very peculiar. So
What
That's
do you
funny.
guys? Yeah,
Oh,
go.
I was just going to say that Frida Kahlo has a Leo rising with the sun in Cancer.
Yeah.
oh, I didn't listen. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying that it's funny that you brought up this chart, and the one I mentioned, Frida Kahlo's chart, she has Leo rising with the sun in the 12th house in Cancer.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
You were going to say though, Tan, I think you were going to speak.
No, I was going to ask you guys what you thought about, because I know that some people out there are saying that this is a placement where the person is kind of always asking who they are, and like they don't really know themselves, and they're always like, who am I? They're searching for that. And so, you know, we're seeing these celebrities charts, and it looks to us on the outside like they know what they're doing, and it, you know, we like, this is who they are, like they're this confident singer or artist or anything. But like, I think there's just something there where they're feeling lost. Just wondering what you guys thought about that.
Yeah, I think that the 12th house sun is in between states, you know, in between the nocturnal realm and the diurnal realm, between night and day. I feel like the quest for self, or the quest for a mission in life, or for a purpose, you know, that it becomes an entire life quest. You know, I feel like that in terms of resources, you know, the resources that are available in the 12th house are resources often that are maybe more limited or like dependent on other people. Like when you're in situations of confinement or seclusion, you're either in very kind of restricted resource situations, or you are in confinement and you're kind of dependent on the people around you to provide certain things because of the situation that you're in. I feel like there's something around agency that is like a personal quest for agency, like trying to find resources to turn them into something and have more independence. I feel like there's just this life quest with the sun in the 12th house to actually build up your own resources, because that can be frustrating. Like we all need agency in life. We all need to feel that we have a certain amount of leeway and freedom or like independence. And so dealing with that frustration often means that like you're able also to deal with few, like you're able to deal with less, and manage with less light, with less resource, but it also means that you have this great thirst for being kind of self-sufficient, I feel. So there's just like this real fighting spirit that comes through with the sun in the 12th house for that reason.
Wow. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I love what you're saying there. I think there's like this, and not, this is not like in a Pluto or Scorpionic way, but there's just something about like pondering existence, pondering death, but not in an obsessed kind of way, but in a way where it's kind of like getting just kind of wondering, like having the wonder and the curiosity for that, and maybe having to experience something in their own life that is a struggle, that's some kind of struggle. And 12th house being opposite the 6th house can even be some kind of either some kind of health struggle, mental, emotional, whatever that is. And then, like you said, like really fighting through that and having a really deep insight into that kind of struggle. And like Adriana said, like being inspiring for people. Yeah.
Kill him with kindness. That's the song.
Yeah.
When you mentioned the enemy house.
Oh, yeah. I
I
also
want to mention. Oh, sorry.
go ahead. Yeah, please.
I want to mention the word confidence and how that word is very superficial in a sense, because when we think of like the acting world, we look at these actors and we think, oh, they look great, and they're depending on their role, or even if their role is not necessarily the most positive, they still come off as confident. But that's like a physical like mask that we put on. It's not necessarily how we feel on the inside. So it's almost a struggle for people with this placement, with the sun in the 12th, is that you have to find a balance. Like the scale is not balanced at all. It's a constant rebalancing and realignment with your internal confidence and your external mask.
Yeah, that's really great comparison, the film world, and like the facade that we present, and like also just how we see ourselves, how we perceive ourselves versus how we actually like our authenticity. Where are we coming from? How are we standing in authenticity at all times, in those spaces? Probably not. Like we are like performing, there's the performativity of like the world of show business is so real. Your literal life depends on performing. So really good at like acting that facade. But the sun in the 12th house probably is going to be coming from such an authentic place that it's like it's harder to perform that fake facade, and it's much more disturbing for them to have to do that. And it's kind of like a massive bullshit radar, I feel like, the sun in the 12th house.
Yeah. And, I want to mention a little bit about the word like self-undoing. I think there is a little bit of that, but like not to say that you can't like get out of it if you have this placement, but like like it's so funny. Like I have this placement, but my sister also has it. She also has her son in the 12th house. And that makes a lot of sense with regards to our dad and things like that, right? But then she would, and my sister's also a diplomat, by the way. She follows my dad's path, but she doesn't like it. And, she would used to tell me, she would come home and then she would say, I have to put on this facade, when I'm doing this job, because I have to meet all these people and I have to be somebody that I don't want to be. And it's just uncomfortable and I don't like it. So she's aware that like has to do this and she doesn't want to have this job, but she's still in it. And it's just like, yeah, it's just very tiring for her. And there's a lot of fears. And I think that that's what the 12th house also brings, is like the fear to really shine, to really put yourself out there, to shine in the way that you actually want to be shine. And so you can kind of go through this like self-undoing by remaining in your fears, in things that make you feel trapped, rather than getting out of that. And then, having to feel like you have to fake it, or having to feel like your energy is drained, but yet you're still doing it without getting out of it. There's a little bit of that energy.
I was just thinking of the diplomat job, actually, just bouncing off what you're saying, that to be a diplomat, I mean, a certain amount of that work is like public, but
Parties.
a lot of yeah. But a lot of that work is also behind the scenes. It's kind of like you have the keys to the city, or like you're behind the scenes of the city. Like you have this privileged access in the corridors of the power world. And like navigating that comes with like there's a cost to being in those worlds, like to shaking those hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like providing a service to others while keeping yourself back, withdrawn, keeping your true, like authentic self like back, because you have to provide that service to others and you have to have a certain barrier between you and the community that you're serving.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, that's the thing. It's like this, like when you have Sun in the 12th house, it's like you do want to shine. I mean, you don't have to be like behind the scene in that way. Like you can be service to other people by shining. Like Selena Gomez, she shines, and yes, she's in service to other people. And I think it's just about that discernment in terms of like what, and having enough alone time to come to a place of what really makes me feel good, like what makes me feel confident, what makes me feel like this is a true purpose. And if that means that you have to change the service mindset or the savior mindset, which there's a lot of that, type of savior mindset within the 12th house, that you can save people by being a star, or you can save people by coming out of, that kind of behind the scene. And if you really want to do that, like go for it, push through some of those fears. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that confidence and fear seem to be like reciprocals of one another. So we've talked about confidence here and then also fear. And so what I think is very interesting is your artwork, Tan, because it's putting a spotlight not only on the like behind the scenes process, but also it's very revealing too, just in general. And so that's an interesting way that the sun in the 12th house is manifested for you particularly.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like there's this revealing that happens, revealing what's behind the scenes as the kind of, like the big reveal of just like, this is what's happening behind, I'm just thinking about, so, what you were saying, Sarah, about Tan's artwork, and like nudity, that like revealing yourself as naked, as in your most vulnerable state, is a kind of a theme that's coming through in your paintings. And it made me think also of David Bowie, who has the sun in the 12th house. And, this is someone that is a superstar, probably the biggest superstar in the world, one of, like everyone knows this name. So, sun in the 12th house does not mean that like eminence is not likely, clearly. But what I would say is that I remember like a period when he was, because he created this persona like Ziggy Stardust, which was like big red hair and like disco clothes and like glitz and glam and like club kid scene in London and everything. But then he just got really uncomfortable with it. It was like on the kind of no, not plateaus, that's a French word, the TV shows. He was like saying at one point, I'm sick of this persona. You know, this is what you guys want me to be, but I am not this. I am something else. And so he then went down this road of like re-authenticating and like taking away the makeup and just going like stripping back. And it did not change how magical the music was. You know, the music was still as powerful and cosmic and dreamy. It was just like the facade that suddenly was more the big reveal. Like he revealed what was behind the scenes, this person that, you know, just David. This is me. So like that fearlessness, you know, to be that brave, you know, to say this is not me, I want to be me. That's brave.
Okay, I'm gonna share.
Wow.
I want to stay on David Bowie for a second because of the movie Labyrinth that I love.
Mm.
And the imagery of him in this with the crystal balls, just like swirling them. And like, you know, he's also kind of like the orchestrator of this whole labyrinth that Sarah is trying to find her way through. And he's kind of got this devilish mystique about him. He's alluring and like you're just really drawn to him he's all dressed in white and his hair is white. It's like a really good image for this archetype.
Yeah, and let's not forget that on his last year when he was in convalescence during his illness, he was recovering in bed and he created an entire album called The Dark Star, which like the darkest of the houses, the 12th house, and the star is there. I just find that to be so on the nose.
Spectacular. Wow. Conjunct Mars.
Conjunct Mars.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. Well, not in the 12th house, but Ooh. Nice.
There's something also that I think about with 12th house is just being this place of secrets. You know, this is where we hide our secrets, like in like the back drawer and like the like sock drawer. You know, like in all the hidden places, we like hide the things that we don't want anyone to see.
Well, actually, can I just, sorry to cut in a little bit, but I would say like the 8th house is the house of secrets that we choose to hide. But I think the 12th house is the house of secrets that we don't even know that we're actually hiding it, but subconsciously we are. That kind of makes sense.
Well, I'm coming from the angle, I totally agree with like the 8th house as like having maybe this more like volitional aspect where we're like, but I don't know, I'm kind of like on the fence with that. But what I was thinking about with the sun in the 12th house is like natives that have this placement seem to be secret keepers, and just the world seems to just trust them with their secrets. You know, it's like, here are all my deepest, darkest secrets. I want you to keep them under lock and key, and then I can walk away a much more like free, calm person because someone knows. And they do tend to be that person for others. Something I've noticed.
Wow, I love that. I went to, you know, Aryan, my boyfriend. I went to his friend's house a couple of years ago. And it was the first time we went to his friend's house. And I never met this friend before. So we were there. And then Aryan went to the bathroom or something. I was sitting with his friend alone. And he was telling me all these things about his dad. And he was saying, like, you know, I don't want to say what it is, but like all the traumas that he had with his dad. And then the next day I was like telling Aryan, like, yeah, you know, I can't believe that your friend had all these things with his dad. And he was like, I didn't know that. My friend never told me that. But it's like, it was telling me this on the very first day that we met. So I think there is something about what you're saying.
Yeah, I've heard other people say that, like someone I met recently saying, and this has happened a few times, I just hear these stories, where someone literally followed them down the street to tell them the things that were happening to them. This was a complete stranger. And they were like, I can't believe this is happening again. Like someone in the street just like following me and just like revealing to me all these like devastating truths that they didn't want to know. They didn't choose to be that person. And they have like a stellium in the 12th house, all in Aquarius, like literally 5 or 6 planets. I thought that was just
That's
crazy
pretty
to be like followed in the streets.
Mhm.
Like,
Well, I have a chart where we can discuss secrets.
yeah, it's
Where-
really interesting to think about the secrets. I love what you said, Tan.
All right, where is it? Okay.
Ah.
Sylvia Bush.
Yeah, I mean,
Cancer again. We have a lot of cancers with Leo risings today.
Yeah.
we have to acknowledge that, you know, the politics he made with foreign countries, like, were, I don't know, were better than, well, were better received than the politics he did inside the country. So inside his own country, I don't think, I mean, that's American politics, and that's kind of difficult to talk about. But yeah, the thing with this politics was very, you know, going outside and negotiate outside of the country. So yeah, and a very, very, very secretive person.
Interesting too that, as like Tan was mentioning earlier about her sister following in the path of the father, this sun in the 12th house here is him following in this like diplomatic and then presidential path of his father.
Yeah.
And certainly, you know, if you're in office, if you're in politics, you've got a lot of secrets.
Yeah, this one is,
chances are you're going to have a shit ton of secrets.
What's the fraternity that he was part of, like Skull and Bones or something? So there's like that also that that connection with kind of like spiritual, or I know that eighth house, this is so interesting that we, you know, eighth house tends to be the house of the occult, but we're also like, I don't know, I'm sensing a little bit of that with the 12th house placement here too. So I don't know if y'all are familiar with the Skull and Bones, and I hope that I'm
No.
even getting that right, but it's kind of like one of these fraternal orders, and you know, a lot of the Ivy League kind of universities here in the States have mention of this. So yeah, it's an interesting, dark, kind of mysterious, cryptic world.
And he'll probably go to his, you know, he probably is not going to ever tell anyone about, like, this is probably, you know, that there, I feel like in the 12th house, coming back to the secrets thing that you were saying, Tan, I feel like the secrets that you find in the 12th house, you can keep them forever. Like, there's a chance that you can actually conceal that secret forever. But in the 8th, maybe there's less of a chance. Like, maybe there's more parties involved. I don't know. I feel like the 8th house I associate with things that you share with other people, like shared secrets. So like there's more chance of that being kind of out.
Yeah, I think I would say that the eighth is a little bit more like, I have this secret. If you want to reveal your secret, I'll reveal my secret, kind of like that. That kind of an energy.
Yeah, whereas the 12th is way more like solo secret, like so private, like no one can ever know that happened. You know, like...
Yeah. It's a little bit less sharing, you could even say. Maybe just sharing with the self, you know, just like writing in a journal or dreaming about it a lot. Something like that, like daydreaming or having dreams about something, but like you never really share it.
Yeah, and possibly the secrets that you have in the 12th house, like they keep you up at night. You know, if you're like, you've got a massive backlog of secrets that you haven't told anyone, like not even a friend or a therapist or a healer or someone that you can trust. If you haven't entrusted the secret to anyone, chances are your sleep will be more disturbed and your dreams will be more disturbed, and your waking life will be kind of very hazy and liminal. Kind of like being in a waking dream. Sometimes in the 12th house, I feel, you know, when you're not sleeping well, you're in a waking dream, you're not quite there.
Yeah, I also noticed that like I have this way of being aware of what I'm going to dream about because I'm suppressing it in the waking life. Like, let's say I'm having a thought and I'm like, oh, I don't want to think about this right now. Then I get this like, oh, I'm probably going to dream about it tonight because I can't think about it right now. So it's just like that hit. And then I'm like, okay, I'm dreaming about it. And then the night comes and like, I'm dreaming about it. Like, it's just weird. Like for example, my teeth, like sometimes when you brush your teeth, it starts bleeding, sometimes when your gums, that's not doing so well. Sometimes that happens. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to, it's just like, it's disturbing, but like, I'm not thinking about it because I have to take a shower and then I have to go and do things. And then I'm like, I'm going to dream about losing my teeth tonight. And then I do end up having dreams about my teeth and sometimes like my teeth falling out and things. And it's coming from that like experience of brushing your teeth. It's really weird.
Interesting, because me and Sarah just had a conversation about how dreams they have to happen for your health. And, everything can happen in your dreams. There are no limitation. You can kill people in your dreams. You can do anything. And dreams happen so you can let go of the suppressed memories. And it's so weird that, of course, you are aware of it because you have sun there. So that's mind-blowing. Interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know about their sun in the 12th house people would relate, but I dream a lot about dead people, like people who have died. Like I once had, like my grandmother passed away first, and then I would dream about her quite often. And, in Thailand, we would believe that they come into our dreams. They're sending a message and things like that. So I would dream about her a lot, but just her alone, like doing stuff, like walking around the house, sometimes like on her bed, talking like the way she used to talk. And then a couple of years later, my grandfather passed away. And then I would have a dream about my grandfather, that he was just, doing the things that he likes to do and saying the things that he used to say. And then one day, like a couple of months after that, I dreamt of the two of them together. And they were standing there in this bright light, and then they were holding hands and then walking away together. And then I never dreamt about them again. That was it. Kind of like these beautiful messages.
That's
And
so
it
nice.
comes-
It's kind of like you processed the external reality, like the day world, the day world reality of both of your grandparents passing was processed in your dreams, where maybe you were able to have like closure. And so like you processed your external reality in your dreams, and they were together, and then you didn't dream about them again. So it's kind of like your processing system being in the 12th house, your sun, is like a gift, because it means that you're able to do that. You're able to access that kind of visionary landscape and remembering them and it being so lit up. But some people don't remember their dreams. They don't dream. Some people don't even ever think about their deceased, and just like completely repress it. I think it's also such a gift to be able to engage with the dead, the dying, the deceased in our dreams. It's very powerful.
Yeah, like I once told you as well, Antonia. I don't think I told this to the rest of the team, but I had that dream about my dad. Remember that one? I had this dream that my dad was going to drive in the rain, and I said, "Don't go driving in the rain. It's really dangerous." And he's like, all right, I'm not gonna go driving in the rain. Come, I'll take you for a walk. And then we walked into the garden, and then we came across this bush of red flowers. And then he took one of them and he gave it to me. And he said, here, take this. I'm giving you this red flower. And then nothing happened. And then I woke up, and a few days later, we had these red wild poppies growing in the garden. Just like we never had them before. Last year, we didn't have any. And then this year, there's just a whole bush of like red poppies. And then I used that space in my garden as like a little altar and like temple to just kind of spend time and and just like be
Wow.
there. Mhm.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to look at some other charts? Yes, I'm already with tears on my eyes.
Same here.
That's so beautiful. Where is it? Oof. Can you see it?
Yeah, Ellen.
Ellen DeGeneres.
Wow. Venus with the sun in Aquarius. That's so interesting for you know, I mean, who we know Ellen to be, it's like her, you know, well, sexual orientation is something that's very connected with her identity. And so with the sun being there with Venus in retrograde and Aquarius, this quirky and oftentimes like the oddball, that's really great.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
Wow.
But yeah, that's the thing. She brings light to other people's lives in her show. That's, you know, it's all about that. Is, you know, okay, what are you doing? What do you have to tell me? What do you have to tell the world? It's like giving light to others. So it's very sun in Aquarius in the 12th. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think even her, like her humor, her jokes and her sense of humor, it has a little bit of that sweetness and compassion. And it's just, she's just endearing, even when she's, you know, making like dirty jokes or whatever. She's just lovable and endearing.
Yeah, and like that the Venusian quality of like being in relationship or like in the relational sphere. So like Ellen DeGeneres is literally on a TV show with people relating to them one-on-one and allowing them to have a public space where they can reveal things, but in a very casual Venusian setting where it's pleasing, it's harmonious, like they're it's a nice time between two people, but it just so happens that there's millions of people watching, which is very like Sun and Venus together. The sun shining the light on this Venusian private 12th house moment.
Yeah.
I'm
she's
also
just so
really sensing
sweet.
into.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, I was thinking about Dory and like how the character that she played on Finding Nemo, and how
right.
Dory is like this supportive role for Nemo finding his dad, and so that's so cool.
Yeah. Oh, Dory.
And did Dory have like short-term memory loss or something? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, she did.
She like if she didn't have Nemo, she would be forever wandering the oceans alone without any idea where she's going, like lost in the 12th house.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, and I have a final one if you want to take a look. I mean, I brought this one because, you know, I think this person, wait, where is it? I think this person is very talented in being able to portray different types of characters, because he has done some humorous movies and some serious ones too. I don't know much about his life, which is something that I consider very sun in the 12th. But yeah, I don't know if you know anything about him.
He used to be Marky Mark. And I think he was like a rapper or something. So it's like communication for Gemini, the sun in Gemini in the 12th house. And then that was like an identity that he left behind, I think, when he went into his acting career.
Makes sense. Yeah, and he's done a movie. He's very known for it because no one was expecting him to do a drama movie where he's in the army and he goes abroad and he gets lost by himself, and then some. So this is based on a true story, and then some people from the village nearby helped him, and yeah, it's about going abroad and to fight and yeah, being alone in the woods in the middle of God knows where and not knowing anything about that place. Yeah.
I don't know much about Mark Wahlberg, but I have another example yeah, but we don't have to bring it up. We can just talk. Unless you want me to share, you can activate my sharing, that's fine. But so she has Sun in the 12th house in Aquarius, and so she's a Pisces rising. And she just has a stellium of Pisces, so she has a lot of Pisces stuff going on. But for those who don't know Laura Dern, she is an actress who performed a lot in David Lynch films. And David Lynch, for those who don't know, is a director who created these films which basically depict surreal dreamscapes.
Ah, okay. I know her. She's in Jurassic Park.
Yes.
Okay. The earlier
Uh,
Jurassic Park.
yes, yeah, exactly. And she just has this capacity as an actress, she has this capacity to go into the crazy, like into the realm of like the unhinged and act it out with just like perfection. And so in this story that is depicted in Inland Empire, which talks about the Hollywood scene, like the Inland Empire is basically another name for like this part of Hollywood, and it's to do with like the behind the scenes of show business in Hollywood. And ultimately it's about an actress who is um basically playing in a film, like a low budget movie, that has a curse on it. So there's a curse that's placed on the film where someone is meant to die or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the curse is, but anyway, regardless, she starts acting it out, and as she acts out, the blending between the scenes that she's acting and reality starts to happen. And when she exits the set, she ends up in these corridors and gets lost in these like very crazy corridors with like giant rabbits and like all sorts of beautiful different like homes. And she ends up as a wife with a man and like a lumberjack guy, and then goes into another thing and she's something else, and then she's on the streets with these homeless people. And in every single corridor of the dream, she's got these big shining lights on her, and most of the film is just her eyes just like looking at the screen and going crazy. And I love that film because it really depicts like the madness of being locked inside of the maze of the in-between world, where you're in between the reality and the set, or the film and the fiction. You're between the two, and she is completely lost and confused, and it can drive you mad, to be in that space. And that film, if you can endure the 2 hours, it's pretty hard. If you can endure those 2 hours, you get a pretty good idea of what it's like living in the 12th house forever, like being locked in.
Wow. Now I have
Yeah.
to watch it.
Yeah, she does such a great job at that role. It's fantastic.
Yeah, actually really glad that you brought this up, because that is a really good description of like having the sun here. It's like bumping around and kind of just going into like feeling like sometimes if you have this place and it's like your life is not real, but it's real because you're here, but like some things are just so unreal, like they're not real.
Kind of like the Truman Show. Do you guys know the Truman Show? Jim Carrey is locked in this kind of dome basically, and he's convinced, he's brought up to believe that is reality. And so you're with the sun in the 12th house. But and what happens with Jim Carrey is that he starts to question everything and not trust anyone. And so there is this quality with sun in the 12th house to lose trust in reality, because you believe that you're being lied to, or that you believe that there's something else happening much wider, much larger, and yeah, in Inland Empire too, she's in these scenes with the director, and she starts to look at the director and think, are you like in on this too? She doesn't know who is trustworthy. So that's a bit of like the madness that you meet in the 12th house, but also it's like extremely creative, because these two stories are like amazingly imaginative, and they're escapism. We're escaping in the Truman Show completely. We escape in Inland Empire. I feel like when there's healthy escapism, it can be so magical in the 12th house.
Yeah, I like that, because it's like you're bringing possibilities, you're bringing miracles, you're creating something that's people think it's impossible, things like that. I think we talked a lot. It was so beautiful. I think we covered like a lot of things, the craziness, the inspiring part, the dark part, just like kind of everything, which is just so beautiful. So that's it for today, beautiful souls. This has been a really amazing discussion. If you have this placement, then feel free to comment below and share your experiences about having Sun in the 12th house and what that's been like. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet. And I'm going to share a link below for you guys as well to some of the social medias of our team members so that you guys can get a little bit more of their juicy content that they create as well. Because our members here, and now members of my team here, are on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. And so if you want to get a little bit more astro content, you can follow them there. And yeah, that's it for this video. I'll see you guys later. Bye.